Hi, my name is Alice Cow. I am the co-founder and CEO of Sender One Climbing. And here we are in my Santa Ana location, actually our first location. I've been climbing for about 12 years, and I started climbing through a very tough time in my life, and climbing helped me get through it. I built this place because I wanted to give climbing to other people and have climbing help people like it helped me. We have two locations just like this really big. This place is 25,000 square feet, 50 foot in height. And then we just recently opened a smaller footprint, a smaller bouldering only facility. I'm a small business owner, and I think nobody would have expected to open a gym like this and be closed for a year. We were closed 3 times between March 2020 and 2021. And I'll never forget it. We closed for the first time in March 15th. And on Tuesday of the next week, we furloughed 135 people and kept 24 people working. How did I know to turn to the SBA? Well, at first I didn't. I actually called my banker. She was one of the first people I called. I told her that, I needed to do everything I could to keep as much cash in the business as possible. So the first thing I thought of was asking her to see if we can defer some loan payments. I didn't know any funding was available at first, and then my bankers told me about it. I think when we first closed in March and April, nobody knew what was happening, and it was just a really scary time. I think it was around April and May when the PPP first became available. My banker immediately told me to apply for this, and she helped me get through the application process. She also told me about the EIDL. The one thing a lot of people don't talk about, but it really helped my business, was the forgiveness aspect for the 7As. So we had the payment forgiveness for 2 rounds of payment forgiveness, and that helped me tremendously. People wanted to come here to feel a sense of community, and they wanted to be able to come back to their jobs. We did a lot of remodels and repairs and things that we've been wanting to do for years, because normally our business is open 362 days a year. When I had questions, when I didn't know how to get through, there's a lot of paperwork and administration. And I really appreciate that. Everybody I've talked to at the SBA have been extremely helpful, and I know they are really committed to helping small businesses.
It's our pleasure to highlight Sender One and Alice for this year's National Small Business Week Virtual Summit. She's the epitome of this year's theme of resilience and renewal, and we're just so glad that she resides in our district in Orange County, California.
The SBA has helped me in many ways. It helped me start my business. I couldn't have done this. I didn't just start a website business. I started this business with millions of dollars of capital improvements. So without my first 7A, I wouldn't have been able to do this. Without the pandemic funding, I wouldn't have been able to keep my employees on. I wouldn't have been able to do the upgrades that I did to help me reopen my business. What I'm hoping will come out of my relationship with the SBA is some future 7A funding. I have another location opening in 2023. So I'm hoping to get another loan from the SBA.
Well, my name is Christopher Finnick. I am the CEO of Mama's Southern Style Barbecue 2, Vauxhall, New Jersey. Well, Mama's Barbecue been in existence for over 24 years. It got started by my uncle. He opened it in '97. And in March, when COVID hit, I'm like, oh wow, how are we gonna make it? Because it got real, slow period. Well, Dave, my goalie, was telling me, from King University or the SBA, let me know what's about to come, what's about to hit, sending me emails. The SBA just was keeping me on point on everything. Just helped me walk through, telling me some things to do. And also, with the loans that I had previous to help me get here, and then the PPP loan, it just all came together and helped me keep my employees during the COVID, and then the EIDL, the disaster loan, that helped us, keep the employees. We didn't lose no employees, and we stayed open, through the COVID, God willing. And at one time, we was maybe one of the only, soul food restaurants that was open at the time during the COVID. You had places in North, Irvington, Maplewood shut down, and we was like one of the only ones that was still able to keep going, and God willing, make it through.
We are really excited to have been able to help Mama's Southern Style Barbecue. We help them with their pricing, with their sales, helping them to get through COVID-19. It's really important for us to be able to help all restaurants. We're thrilled to be able to help Mama's Southern Style Barbecue through this terrible time.
The impact of COVID, the things you have to do, sanitizing, trying to get the supplies for that, and also letting you know, mainly how to file and what to look for in these, programs that they was coming up with, what you might qualify for, what you would not, just keeping me kind of ahead of the game. During the COVID, the SBA, without them, I don't know, where I would have been. For us helping me with the employees and myself, the business, it was like a God sent from heaven to just like pick us up and carry us to the finish line.
We buy, sell, and trade brand new and quality used sporting goods and fitness equipment. My name is Rich Messina, and I'm the owner-operator of Play It Again Sports in Omaha. In March of 20, which is normally the busiest time of the year for us, all team sports stopped, and so we pivoted to selling fitness equipment and other items that were people able to continue to stay active while socially distanced.
Small business owners in Nebraska were able to take advantage of some of the SBA COVID relief programs like the PPP and the EIDL program. They were able to keep their employees on the payroll. They had the working capital that they needed to be able to keep them going during this pandemic.
Through the SBA support for SCORE in our Great Omaha chapter, we provided mentoring service to this entrepreneur, both when he was starting his business and after he had his business in place.
Rich Messina was able to obtain a Paycheck Protection Program loan from us, which was really important in just keeping all of these small businesses in Nebraska going throughout the pandemic.
SBA works with us in partnership as a backstop so that the bank can take on customers that might be riskier than we could otherwise handle. The SBA also allows us to take advantage of some of the funding sources that we don't have access to. So for my bank, that means we've done SBA 504 loans to help some businesses that are in later stages of development really take advantage of long-term fixed-rate financing that is superior to what they can get in the non-SBA market.
When the pandemic hit, we were advised by a number of sources, including the SBA, about a bunch of different programs that were out there available to us. And the one that made sense was PPP, and we got approved for some PPP money there. Also, though, because our business continued to take off, we got a 7A loan through the SBA that helped us expand our business and grow both our footprint and our inventory and the services we were able to offer. Yeah, getting the PPP money really helped us, obviously, during the slowest period of that in the spring of 20, and allowed us to keep people on staff that otherwise we might not have been able to. And then again, that loan really helped us expand our business and grow into what we are today, where we're really up significantly from a year ago. So the process of applying for the PPP was pretty easy. I worked with my lender, and they helped me with the paperwork, and it got approved very quickly, and we got funded very quickly, and helped us tremendously during that downtime.
My name is Pushpinder Singh Garcha, and I am the owner and CEO of Golden Tech Systems. So Golden Tech is a systems integrator firm. We focus on solving complex problems in the cloud and cyber domains, and we proudly support the warfighter's mission through our contracts with the Air Force and the Navy. So COVID was a very interesting time, and more so than ever because we had just started on our first contract with the Air Force at Hill Air Force Base in Utah. I was planning to head over there and meet with the program office and my customer, but there was so much uncertainty with COVID, and then finally in March they decided to lock it down and say everyone switches to remote work. No one had imagined that this is going to last into 2020, well into 21. But what COVID did was put the brakes on expanding your business because companies were uncertain about the future. So, being in the program, being able to, continue working on a government contract was tremendously helpful to us.
The SBA is proud to have been a part of Pushpinder's success story throughout, getting him into the 8A program, having him as part of the Emerging Leaders Management Program, and finally, most recently, getting PPP loans and EIDL loans for him to be even more resilient as we weather the pandemic.
The SBA was very instrumental in getting this contract because the 8A program allows small businesses, again, economically and ethnically disadvantaged business groups to be able to market their capabilities to agencies, whether DoD or civilian, and find out if there's a scope of work that they can go after and then win that scope of work via a sole source contract, which means you're the only person who competes for that award and there's no justification required on behalf of the government. So as long as the company can provide justification that it's a low risk solution for the government and they will be capable and competent to delivering to the mission criteria, I strongly feel that had it not been for the 8A award that we won with the Air Force, we would be in a different position just because commercial spending shrunk considerably during COVID. So if it hadn't been for the Air Force contract, we would be in a very different situation. So I'm thankful that we had that program, we had the certification. As we emerge from COVID with resiliency, we can actually take on more work. Going to those small businesses is one thing, but actually helping those small businesses succeed, that is what takes you to the next level. And SBA is responsible for this setup. So, kudos to the SBA and, all that they do. Whether it's the PPP loan, the EIDL loan, or training programs, I strongly feel that a lot of people do not know what the SBA does, the capabilities that it has, and how much it can do to help small businesses succeed.
Welcome, everyone, to National Small Business Week. The Office of Entrepreneurship, Education, and Entrepreneurial Development are proud to host this session featuring my boss, Mark Madrid. Mark serves as the Associate Administrator for Entrepreneurial Development, including our vast network of resources throughout the country. Mark has 3 special guests, which he'll introduce, and he's well apt to hold the discussion. Mark has a deep background in finance, entrepreneurship development programs, chambers, and other areas of entrepreneurship. He's a true champion from Main Street to Wall Street. Mark, all yours.
Thank you, Jack. Welcome, everyone, to National Small Business Week. I say it often, it's the highest honor imaginable to serve small businesses. As our SBA Administrator, Isabella Casillas Guzman, says often, small businesses are the giants of our economy. And the Office of Entrepreneurial Development, we serve as the technical resources and educational arm of the SBA. Now, we couldn't do that without strong resource partners. And I am thrilled and energized to have 3 extraordinary leaders with me today to have a frank conversation about what we're facing today, what we've faced in the last few months. Where do we go from here? And I'm honored, and I'm not going to do this in a particular order, but I see to my left is Mr. T. Rowe. He is President and CEO of America's SBDC. To my right, I see Bridget Weston. She is a CEO of SCORE Association. And then I see Corinne Hodges, CEO of the Association of Women's Business Centers. And so we're going to get this conversation started. Again, thank you for your precious time. You're the ones with grit, small business owners across the United States, across Puerto Rico, the U.S. Virgin Islands, and our territories. You're the innovators. You're the giants of our economies. You've had to grit it out. And so we empathize with what you've had to face, not only in your business lives, but the lives of your employees, the lives of your families. And so our resource partners have been instrumental and on the ground, in that terrain on the ground, supporting businesses across the U.S. And so let's get this conversation started. I'll start off. Bridget, please tell us about you, Bridget, and your entity. I'm going to ask the same of Corinne and also T, and then we're going to get into some more discussions about the pandemic, and then we're going to talk about the present and the future. Bridget, welcome.
Mark, thank you so much. It is such a pleasure to be here with you and my fellow colleagues, T and Corinne. It is such a joy and a privilege to work at SCORE as the CEO, to lead our organization, to help those giants that you spoke of, Mark. SCORE is a nationwide network of volunteer business mentors who provide confidential, personalized mentoring, as well as education to anyone looking to start or grow or has a problem in their small business. Our resources are there, they are free, and we are working to help each and every small business owner who reaches out to SCORE to help them achieve their goals. Last year, we helped start over 45,000 new businesses and helped add nearly 75,000 jobs with the help of a SCORE mentor.
Thank you, Bridget. And I believe now the count is over 10,000 mentors, correct, in the SCORE network. Thank you very much. The power of mentorship. Corinne, welcome to this conversation.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I have the pleasure of being able to serve 136 women's business centers. We at the association represent them as they endeavor to meet the needs of women businesses and disadvantaged businesses, whether that's economically or socially disadvantaged. Women's business centers are there in the community to provide education, training, mentorship as well. And most of the services that they're offering are free. Like Bridget, we like to talk about the impact that we're having. 70% of the clients that we're seeing in women's business centers, as you would expect, are women. Well over half of them are clients of color. And in terms of other numbers, we're seeing on average about 200,000 clients per year. So really spending a lot of time with each of those clients. On average, we're spending between 3 and 4 hours with each client every year.
Wow, that's phenomenal. Thank you. And what is that number again? It's 136, right? Women's business centers.
Yes, Mark, you narrowed in on a number that's the biggest number we've ever had. Sorry to brag on you, but we had this record expansion of the program, opening 20 new women's business centers, thanks to your office and the Office of Women's Business Ownership, who led the effort.
Thank you, Corinne. Thank you for that. It's always good that even in times of uncertainty, that we see growth and improvement. And T. Rowe, welcome to the table, my friend.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you very much. I represent the Small Business Development Centers. We have 62, going to be 63 networks when the Northern Marianas join us, and nearly 1,000 centers nationwide. Last year, we did land office business with the pandemic, and I would say we probably doubled our usual number of clients. Was nearly 500,000 clients, and we count clients as long-term engagements with them and counseling and advising them. Most of our centers are located at colleges and universities around the country, so you'll find them pretty much anywhere, like the University of Maryland or the University of Georgia, just to name a couple of the big ones. And we didn't do quite as well as SCORE, but we helped 17,000 small businesses get started last year. Again, a big pickup. And we've supported in this past year probably close to 2 million jobs supported in our clients, helping them build through the pandemic and get back out there on the main street.
Well, thank you, T. That's quite an impact. And to assemble and aggregate this impact together, I couldn't be more honored, and the OED team as well as the agency to work with you hand in hand. Now I want to pivot in no particular order. Please just chime in. I'd like to hear from the three of you through your three distinct voices and what brings you together as well as resource partners. But let's talk about the pandemic. Let's flash back. Certainly, it's a hard flashback for all of us. Certainly for me, I lost my dad to COVID-19, almost lost my mother. My dad was an entrepreneur, a welder in the Texas Panhandle, owned his own welding business. But let's flash back to, last year around March, April, that time frame. What was in your thought process? And ultimately, how did you pivot? How did the SBDCs, the Small Business Development Centers, the WBCs, the Women's Business Centers, the SCORE chapters, mentors, how did you all mobilize to pivot, to evolve, and to stay connected to the ground and support small business owners? Please cite specific examples of how you got through that period and supported, this particular sector that, frankly, I experienced this as well in my former position. They were literally on the edge of their seat, not knowing what was going to happen the next day.
Sure. Oh, go ahead, T.
No, well, I was going to say, I think we were all kind of in the same boat where it's like the way Hemingway described bankruptcy. It happened slowly and then all at once. And it crept up on us. We had situations where suddenly buildings were closed and offices were closed. People were not necessarily had their computers with them. A lot of shifting to both connect with our own staff, but also reconnect with our clients, find out where they were, what they were doing, how they were handling things. It was crazy.
Yeah, just to echo with what T was saying, it was this shift in the everyday lives that none of us at least had ever experienced before. And for SCORE, first and foremost, we wanted to put the health and safety of our staff, our volunteers, and our clients top of mind. So we, like everyone, shut our offices down. The beautiful thing about entrepreneurs and our volunteers, and I know it's true of our other resource partners too, we were able to pivot to virtual the same day we shut down. So we did not miss a day of service in terms of being able to connect the volunteers with one another, to keep their operations going, to connect to the clients and remind them that we are here for you. We know this is unprecedented. We know this is scary, but we are not leaving your side. And we were able to work with them and connect with them. And then when the PPP and EIDL loans became available, we, SCORE and the other resource partners, were the front lines, the people that were figuring out how to access them and help people with the applications. We were told by so many of our clients that without the help of a SCORE mentor, they wouldn't have been able to, get them and succeed and be able to stay open. So those were some of the early days of the pandemic for us.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think we all helped each other in some really instrumental ways. And I include SBA's Office of Women's Business Ownership and your office too, Mark. And we rallied together in that sort of confusing time. I mean, it was so surreal, right? Because none of us were going to the office as you described. Many people were dealing with family circumstances and the loss of loved ones near and dear. And the workforce in many ways was paralyzed as well. Everyone was sort of frozen in fear. And if it, hadn't been for the CARES Act and some of the funding that came flowing there through to women's business centers in particular, and also to a program that enabled the office, or I should say America's SBDC and women's business centers to work together, we wouldn't have been able to provide the kind of support that we could. And so thanks to that, we stood up a website, T and I and a team of vendors at covid-sb.org. And that website unfortunately persists today. And I say unfortunately because it's still needed today, as well as the website for small businesses. We also have the Small Business Advisor Training Portal that services the Veterans Business Outreach Centers, SCORE mentors, and the advisors of women's business centers and SBDCs. But citing one specific example, Mark, when we think about where the impact to small business hit first, I, in many ways, think of the state of Washington, where, we saw cases sort of traveling fast. And that's where we first felt, I think, some of the, oh gosh, here's how it's going to impact us, like really here in the US. And I think of a chocolatier in Seattle A chocolatier represents so many of Main Street because this particular chocolatier, Intrigue Chocolate, had a real dependence since 2006 on their storefront, on being in Seattle, on the foot traffic, on repeat business. And yet, like so much of small business across America, served the needs that weren't like essentials. I mean, in my life, chocolate I think of as essential, but it really wasn't something that you just, had to have to live and breathe. And so what's the first thing people, do without? Like, they're not leaving their house when this pandemic hits to go, pick up some truffles. And so this business had to pivot. And had it not been for the resources through SBA that support the Women's Business Center, this business might not have been afforded the insight and what, according to them, the consulting to be ready to think about how are they going to pivot their business, but also to receive some early insight on those EIDL. Remember the economic injury disaster loans that were forgivable in those first days. And then through the fog of war, figure out how to apply for PPP. And they had a great banking relationship, fortunately for them, but also the Women's Business Center was right there holding their hand through the process. And so, I mean, it was just, I come back to my very first comment. It was all of us working together. It's SBA, it was the banks, it was this ecosystem together holding the hands of small business. And because of it, they thrive and they get stronger. They survived those days of being closed. And they were able to reinvent. They're a little bit leaner today, but they say they're a better business as a result.
I love those points. I mean, I remember being connected to the ground with thousands of small business owners, and I got a phone call from a Latina entrepreneur, a coffee business, and she said, and she had her infant daughter on one arm, her cell phone on this arm, and then she had a cell phone ringing in her back pocket. And she said, we lost 90% of our revenue in 1 week. I don't know what we're gonna do now. And then that grit and resilience took over, not only as a Latina-owned business, but a woman-owned business, and seeking support, asking for help. And, just one step at a time, the first draw PPP, the second draw PPP, the EIDL loan, before the increase in the max to 500K. And she just went through the steps, and wouldn't you know it, that now she is anticipating Series A funding after that one phone call saying we lost 90% of our revenue in 1 week. So thank you for your testimonies here. And I want to flash forward to the present, because I think it's important for us to have a recollection of where we were back in those days. And thank you for that, for your references all the way around the table. But I'd like to know from you, from what you're seeing today, what is the primary challenge of your small business owners? I know it's hard to generalize, but if there was one that sticks out to you, what would it be now that we're facing another ring of uncertainty? T, let's start off with you.
Okay. I think probably the biggest thing that our clients are dealing with right now is how do we reconnect with our customer base? How do we make sure people know we're here, we're open, it's safe, we want to help you come back to Main Street. That in a nutshell has been most of it. And even with all the uncertainty, it's letting your customers know. So we spent so much time helping them with, build your online presence so that your clients know you're there, know all about you. Build up, whether it's your Facebook page or an Instagram account or something like that. Really using all those tools, which may actually be kind of the quiet little silver lining in the dark cloud, is getting more businesses active online like that.
I'm sorry, Mark, but I do think too that just like with re-engaging clients, and we see that loud and clear, it's one of the top problems or challenges that the business owners that come to SCORE face. It's also the employee recruitment and retention. It is not easy these days to get the employees to come back to work for various reasons, personal or otherwise. And so we're seeing a lot of our small business owners struggle with that and finding ways to entice people back, or to, what do they do with benefits and salaries in order to bring them back? And that, of course, impacts that bottom line. And it's this balancing act that the small business owners have to work every day. So that is another factor that we're seeing.
Corinne, thank you, Bridget.
Yeah, I mean, everything my colleagues have said is totally accurate, but I would also just, had a risk mark of sounding like a broken record. Women's business centers were founded more than 30 years ago because of the same barriers we unfortunately continue to experience today. And it's not just women-owned businesses, it's a lot of the underserved businesses. When we look at our website project, as covid-sb.org, we were just discussing today and measuring the top 5 business concerns from inquiries into that site. And the top 3 are all around funding. It's loans, it's grants, and it's funding. And so it's just true of women business owners and true of really all small business owners. It's mobilization money. It's like, I got the contract, but I need to get the resources and hire the people if I can find them, and get the other resources in place. It's how to, it's starting a business and growing a business. All of it takes capital. And unfortunately, it's still the greatest barrier we're hearing to business success.
Well, thank you for your reflections, because I think these dimensions of capital acquisition, relationships with capital providers, workforce development, customer acquisition and retention, they're just sliced in a different dimension now, right? With the pandemic, the uncertainty of the Delta variant, going into the holiday season, which you all know it, for entrepreneurs, it's not a holiday vacation. The work's got to continue. And so these are trying times. Thank you all for supporting the field, and with your responses, it's indicative that you have a pulse on the ground, which is incredibly important. And I'm just honored, as well as our dedicated team at the SBA, with Administrator Guzman's vision to be more customer centric, to be technology forward, and to advance equity. And so there's nothing like painting a picture of a resilient entrepreneur, of a small business owner. So I know you have scores of examples, but can you share one example of grit and resilience of a small business owner that you all served, that gritted their way through the pandemic? And it's not over, but had a silver lining, had a best practice manifested, had a breakthrough, or maybe they're still struggling, but they're so determined. I'd like to hear from each one of you that example to paint the picture for our audiences today, because I know that will really resonate with those who are watching today.
Well, if you don't mind, I'll start off, Mark. And this is actually a Texas business, so you'll be happy about that. They're down in Port Aransas, down there near Padre Island. It's called Irie's Island Food. And they're sort of a total picture of how SBA helps businesses, because they were coming out of Hurricane Harvey and they had a recovery plan going after Hurricane Harvey, and then COVID-19 hit. And so now they're trying to prioritize employee and customer safety. So they closed their doors for like 3 months, even after there was some limited service that was permitted there in Texas. And then they did reopen, and they had this huge surge of all these vacationing customers down on the coast there. And so they were concerned about keeping everyone safe. They closed the interior restaurant. They offered curbside and outside service only. But what's amazing is throughout the year, the 2 owners, Nicole Horton and Martin Fernea, they just kept focusing on the safety of their employees and their customers and keeping everything going. And they actually ended up relocating to a better, larger location, and they doubled their workforce. They really worked hard to make sure that they got the best, thought about it, planned, and strategized to get the best out of it. Just an amazing story, going from 11 to 20 some odd employees now.
And T, what is that name of the business once again in Port Aransas?
It's Irie's Island Food.
Got it.
IRIE.
Great example. Thank you, T. Corinne, how about you? Testimony, please.
You know what? I snuck my story in earlier, but I have just the poster child for resilience. Which, when you think about the place where not only COVID, but other disasters have just continued to batter the economy, it's Puerto Rico. And I'm so grateful for the Office of Women Business Ownership, announcing 2 new Women's Business Center grant opportunities there. But there's a business here called GSI, and it's a husband and wife team that runs the company. They do logistics for the arrivals, and travel, surface transportation for visitors, like if you want to move a shuttle bus or van from the airport or whatever. But they also do concierge and tour bookings. They work like they're the people behind the concierge desk at a hotel. And so, I mean, what industry was harder hit than the travel industry? I mean, I don't even know. And they have been so resilient. And they say, I mean, I was talking to them today. They said that the number one reason why they survived was that PPP loan. Had it not been for SBA, they wouldn't be here today.
That is wonderful. And we're so excited about Puerto Rico and the Women's Business Centers. A special shout out to Assistant Administrator Natalie Madera Cofield, who leads the Office of Women's Business Ownership here in the SBA. And of course, the coordination of that office with you, Corinne. And so we're very excited about the terrain in Puerto Rico. And now, Bridget, we're excited to hear about an example in your world.
Sure, thank you. And I love hearing these stories. It is what really, invigorates me and gives me that passion and fuels that enthusiasm. I even, in talking about places that could not keep their doors open without PPP, my son's gymnastics, place that he goes to used PPP, and a SCORE mentor was really fortunate for them. But there are 2 stories I want to share, because the one is this woman, Jennifer Jones. She was a personal chef and had her own catering company. And just like hotels, I mean, that was not happening anymore. No one was hosting events. No one was having that. And she reached out to a SCORE mentor and was able to pivot and move to do an online cooking experience. And it was to, it was for team building events and for neighborhood community events. She now works with Wounded Warriors, other organizations, to bring this virtual experience to others, and has developed this whole new, product line that she didn't even think about until the pandemic. And it is an incredible experience. She can do in person when it's available. She can do hybrid, and she was able to be resilient and pivot with that. The other is, we see entrepreneurs, they see a need and they acknowledge it. One of the things we certainly saw around here in the DC area, but I'm sure many places, is the increase in bike usage. So we had a team of brothers who had the opportunity to open a brick and mortar bicycle shop during the pandemic in June. They spent weekly virtual calls because the finances were not there. We all know how hard it is to be a startup, but they persevered. They are now profitable, and looking forward to all of those bike repairs in the future with all of those new bike owners.
These are the ultimate feel-good stories with everything going on in the world today. When you think of small business owners, just not thinking about anything else but keeping that business concern ongoing and growing and passing that along potentially to other family members. That is the ultimate American dream in my view. So thank you for sharing those instances. And we look forward to many more opportunities from testimonies coming from you all at the SBDCs, the WBCs, and SCORE. Now I'd like to pivot to the what's next, because clearly we've heard about some successes and some victories. But there are still those who are struggling today, the smallest of the small, both in rural and urban America. Maybe we're talking about underserved communities. We all know who those are. I mean, I always have my 8 senses about me when I'm walking down the sidewalk or see a strip center, or if I look at a vacancy sign. Today, it struck me because I went to a new area here in DC and I saw a flower shop, and it looks like the folks just walked out many months ago. I mean, there's still some Christmas decorations, and I just had to stand there and just have a moment of reflection and to remember why we're all here and who we're serving. And so what's next for you at your entities in working with us at the Office of Entrepreneurial Development and SBA. What's the path going forward the next few months? I'll start with Bridget.
Sure. First it is to continue to address the uncertainty for these small business owners. We've been talking about how resilient they are. SCORE has our Small Business Resilience Hub, and the lessons learned from being able to pivot and have a contingency plan certainly don't just relate to this pandemic. They can be for, unfortunately, there's hurricanes now or other natural disasters. So we want to take those lessons and be able to expand that and help business owners prepare for whatever disaster might be next. But the other is, and Corinne talked about this, there are underserved business owners out there. And this pandemic has made it more evident than ever before. So one of the things that SCORE is doing, and I know the SBA and our other resource partners are as well, we're focused on creating equity-based programming and outreach to meet those needs of those business owners who have been hardest hit or struggled even more because of those underserved populations and the challenges that they face. And our SCORE for All programming addresses those funding challenges, the lack of access to networks and other things like that. And I think that the Community Navigator program is a great way to address that as well. And we are all, I'm sure, doing our part to help make things more equitable and inclusive across the United States.
Thank you, Bridget. Advancing equity, as you know, is a top priority for us here under Administrator Guzman's leadership. T, how about you? What's in the what's next territory for the SBDCs?
Wow. Well, for us, what's next is really what's next for the clients. And as Bridget mentioned, one of the biggest things that affects the small business is, consistency is great if you can get it. But really, how do you adapt to change? And so we've really had a lot of effort spent on how are you going to handle changes in the supply chain? Because, for example, you talked about that flower shop. I'm sure what devastated them was interruption in the supply chain. So where do you turn to next? And so we've got a larger effort in the supply chain and thinking about really resiliency as a matter of evening out the shocks and being able to see opportunity in places you wouldn't expect, whether it's a small distillery going into making hand sanitizer or something like that. But on the other side of it, and this is the resiliency side of it, it's resiliency within our SBDCs as well. And that's taking up the inclusivity project that our Northern California SBDC started and reaching out to the underserved businesses there. And we've transformed that into the National Inclusivity Challenge of, who's next? Who's going to pick up the torch here? And we've got a series of webinars that we're developing off of that to expand the training. And we've got webinars on that same issue in the resource partner platform. And Corinne and I have been working hard on that for the last year. And any advisor who sees this, let me tell you, go to the platform. And if there's something there you like, tell us about it. If there's something there you're missing, tell us about it, because all of us then, nationally, we've got, over 15,000 advisors out there between us. There's so much we're probably missing between the three of us. So as much as we can learn from them, the better off we're all going to be.
Great message, Steve. Thank you. Corinne, what's next?
Yeah, so the idea of this flower shop that you mentioned that had obviously abruptly closed, there's opportunity there. There's an office space there, probably a prime location. There's a business waiting to open up their doors in that business. And that's what's been sort of the silver lining in the storm is, we've had a surprising number of new businesses see that this is their time, either by necessity because, the job wasn't there, or because they needed the convenience of working from home. We've had I almost want to say alarming number of small business starts. Like, why? Like, where did they all come from? And it's helping them identify the path to being sustainable. And we've learned so much about what T mentioned, the supply chain, and how to prepare for the inevitable shortage of things that are just essential to being able to sell your product. If it's a small part in a car or a bicycle, like, you have to be ready to diversify that supply chain. And these are things that we probably weren't really great at before, but can help these businesses take advantage. And if they're not even new, but just to be more competitive, and then finding new markets, and things that SBA is doing, with the international, finding new markets. There's just so many opportunity. I don't really think we've tapped fully into all of the potential yet that not only women's business centers offer, but that SBA offers. And so in some ways, it's like expanding our own capacity, even if we feel like we're at capacity and we're doing as much as we can, but it's helping us do more and helping more businesses, just like what Bridget mentioned, to be more inclusive and to reach all of the small businesses with all of the assets we have so that they can continue to grow and reach their potential.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. And, this next question is a very important one because of all of you who joined us today. And thanks again for your precious time. But how would one reach out to each of your respective organizations? And then I have a couple of questions after that in closing. Let's start off with T. To my left on my screen anyway.
Okay. Well, to reach us, just you can go to our main website, www.americaspdc.org. We've got the locator there. You can search it by state, by zip code, whatever. Reach out to our advisors. You've got an SBDC in your state, so if you go to Pennsylvania or Alabama SBDC, you're going to find us. We're out there. And of course, go to covidsb.org and you'll be able to locate any of the three of us.
Wonderful, T. And once again, 62 lead centers and over 900 service centers. Corinne, how do we get in touch with the women's business centers?
Yeah, we have 2 front doors. So you can come in through what T mentioned, covid-sb.org, and go to the Find Local Assistance. You can look all of us up, and then you can filter by Women's Business Center if you're just looking for one of us, or come to our website too, awbc.org/WBC-locator.
All right, we're going to make sure that we list all these resources. Thank you, Corinne. Bridget, how do we locate SCORE?
With 240 chapters and 10,000 volunteers, like you mentioned, Mark, we are all across the country. The easiest way is to go to www.score.org. And again, you can find your local SCORE chapter, or you can search the profiles of the volunteers across the nation to see who's the best fit for you.
Wonderful. A couple of closing questions. One is, what message do you have for those who support your respective organizations, the teams that support the SBDCs, the Women's Business Centers, and SCORE? Also, what closing message do you have for the small business owners with us today, joining us on National Small Business Week? We'll start off with Corinne.
Awesome. So what I would say to anyone who supports our network is, when you support a women's business center, you support the economy by supporting women who are some of the fastest drivers of small business growth in our economy. And then what I would say to the business owners, gender aside, is sometimes plan B is better. Like plan A was no pandemic. Plan B, we had a pandemic. And what I find is when we reinvent ourselves and we discipline ourselves to do something that works in light of the circumstances, we find like sometimes we're better off. So I'd say, don't be disheartened. Like sometimes plan B is better.
Thank you, Corinne. T, message for your folks at the SBDC networks, and one message for small business owners watching us today.
Well, first off, to the SBDC advisors and directors is just thank you. They have been amazing. I have been overwhelmed by the fact that they turned this into an opportunity to be more productive and more effective. And they've worked hours dealing with helping people in sometimes heartbreaking situations. And I'm just constantly admire their strength and their effort. And to the small businesses out there, that's what we're here for. We're here to help you. We're here to get you through this. We're here to make sure you can get the best you can get out of your business experience. So just don't be afraid to come to us and ask for help. That's what we're here for.
Thank you, T. Bridget, your message to the SCORE chapters and mentors, and one message for our small business owners.
I think that SCORE is a unique intersection of entrepreneurism and volunteerism, which are two, foundational values that our country has. Our 10,000 volunteers give their time and their expertise to help others, achieve their dreams and their small business owners. And just like T had said, thank you. They were all facing their own challenges personally with illness, with uncertainty, and yet they stepped up and were there for the clients, the tens of thousands of people that we serve, and they made a difference. And I really appreciate every single one of our volunteers. And to the small business owners, you are not alone. We are here for you. We know that it's hard to sometimes step back and look at the whole business picture because you're the one doing everything. But when you step back and look at the alternatives and talk to a mentor, you can find that path forward, and you do not have to do it alone. We are here for you.
Thank you, Bridget. I'd also like to give a shout out to the team at the Office of Entrepreneurial Development. Thank you for your tireless efforts, your enthusiasm, and coming to the job every day ready for the next round. And so thank you to all who have persisted throughout this pandemic. And we've still got a lot of work to do, but you come with energy, you come with a smile, and we appreciate you. And to the small business owners, you matter. It's a bottom line. When I'm ordering that cuisine from Uber Eats, when I'm doing just about anything, when I'm shopping for a particular product, a service, you are really surrounding our lives. And so we need you. We need you to reach out to us for support, but we also have a lot to learn from you. The closing question here, the last couple of minutes, is the way we roll around here at OED is we always start with who we're serving. And then we then focus on ourselves only after that. What have you learned quickly as we close out? What have you learned about yourself during this pandemic? And I'll voluntarily just popcorn it to whoever is ready to answer that question.
I think the thing I've learned is that every time I feel overwhelmed and frustrated, I think about how much harder it is for everybody out in the field and for every small business out there that's dealing with it. And, when I think about that, it just kind of makes whatever frustration I have fade off a bit.
Go ahead, Corinne.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. So for me, it's the importance of mindset. I mean, Mark, you're like the energy bus driver. You've got great, awesome, positive energy always. But when I'm in my own world, sometimes I lose track of, having the right mindset, and I get that feeling of overwhelm. There's so much need, right? Whether it's women's business centers or the small businesses themselves, so many phone calls to return and emails. Oh my gosh, the email battle. But when I feel overwhelmed, I just have to remember I'm overwhelmed because my mindset is there's too much to do. If I can just not think about it that way and think about being present in that one email I'm answering, in that one task, and just let the rest sort of not get the attention of my mind, it really helps me not only deal with the one in front of me, but I mean, I'm only ever going to be able to get to so much anyway, regardless of if I'm stressed out or not. I might as well not be stressed out, right? So it's like really the importance of mindset. Probably something, Mark, I think you've got handled, but for me has been really an important journey.
Thank you, Corinne. Powerful. Thank you. Bridget.
Well, I think one of the things I've learned is actually advice that we were just sharing with the small business owners themselves, and that is to lean on your network. And I have been so fortunate to have my colleagues, Corinne and T and you, Mark, to talk to and share ideas with, and, talk about the challenges that we're facing. And it has been such an incredible experience to work alongside all of you and to learn from all of you. And I think, that has been something that I can sometimes get too busy, like Corinne was saying, and not always take the time to do. But when I do, it really does help to elevate, SCORE, myself, and the people around me.
Well, this has been a wonderful few minutes to have a frank and honest conversation. Thank you on behalf of Administrator Guzman and the team here at SBA, and certainly the Office of Entrepreneurial Development, for your reflections, your tenacity and resilience. And thank you to our small business development centers, our women's business centers, and our SCORE chapters and mentors. And I'd like to close by just addressing you all, small business owners. Wow. I mean, you continue to inspire us. You overwhelm us with so much grit and resilience, and you never lose hope. And so my ask of you is, what is that one takeaway that is actionable for you from this hour with T. Rowe, Bridget Weston, and Corinne Hodges? And until we meet again, we hope that you will continue the journey with National Small Business Week, that you come to sba.gov, do some exploration, and you learn more about this powerful network of what we call resource partners here at the Small Business Administration. Thank you for your time. And T, Bridget, Corinne, look forward to the continued collaboration. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to National Small Business Week. I am Mark Madrid, Associate Administrator for the Office of Entrepreneurial Development, OED. SBA Administrator Isabella Casillas Guzman. The Community Navigator Pilot Program was enacted through the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021. And this initiative's goal is to strengthen outreach to our nation's smallest businesses, both in rural and urban America, and particularly those owned by women, veterans, and socially and economically disadvantaged individuals. This program establishes a national network of community navigators who are on the ground connecting to small business owners, meeting them where they are, delivering solutions tailored to their needs. This program is a $100 million grant funding opportunity for eligible entities, including qualifying nonprofits, local governments, states, tribes, SBA resource partners, and others. The grant awards will range from $1 million to $5 million for a 2-year period of performance, and will enable these organizations to work together with these culturally knowledgeable navigators. This program could not come at a more critical time, as small businesses have suffered great economic loss from this pandemic, and SCORES did not access previous economic relief programs. And no one understands the needs of the small business owner quite like Daymond John. He knows just how scrappy and inventive entrepreneurs need to be. In fact, he built FUBU from a small idea in his mom's house in Queens into a retail empire. He uses his tremendous success to give back to entrepreneurs as he understands their struggle, because you know what? He has been in their shoes. He coaches countless businesses, not just through Shark Tank, but through the Shark Group, his consulting firm, and Next Level Success. His program designed to teach business owners and entrepreneurs how to start and grow their businesses. I am energized, as you can tell, to introduce Daymond John.
What's up, everybody? I'm the Shark Daymond John, and you may know me from Shark Tank or as the founder of FUBU, and I hope you're enjoying the SBA's National Small Business Week Virtual Summit and programs that people have been talking about here today. When I was starting out with FUBU, I so badly wish I had access to some of these amazing resources. So stay tuned and follow along SBA's platforms to find out more and get plugged in. All the best.